Today we're going to look at a passage in 1 Peter chapter 5 in verse 8. There's a warning here given by the Apostle Peter that's important for us to remember. He said, "Be of sober spirit, be on the alert. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion seeking someone to devour." He uses this illustration of the devil being like a lion hunting his prey. And we are the ones who are being hunted. And so there's a couple things that Peter says here, a couple points that we need to take out of this passage. Number one is that we should not think of sin as being inconsequential. We should not think that sin is just no big deal, that we can continue in sin and it just really doesn't matter. The scriptures do not describe sin as being of no consequence. Sin is something that is to be avoided. Jesus died on the cross in order to provide forgiveness of sins, but also to free us from sin. And so the idea that, well, sin just really doesn't matter because we have Christ and His blood to cover our sins, that's not the way the scriptures describe it. Yes, there is forgiveness through the blood of Christ, but sin is something to be avoided. Jesus came to set us free from sin. The devil, he wants to bring us back into bondage. He wants to trap us again in sin. Sin will destroy us. Sin will cause us to be lost. And so Peter is warning here, watch out for the devil. He's trying to tempt you. He's trying to get you to sin because that will ultimately destroy you if you follow that path and become enslaved to sin again. But the second thing he describes here, as he looks at this illustration, uses this illustration about Satan as a lion hunting his prey. He says, be of sober spirit and on the alert. Be paying attention. Because it is when we get distracted and when we get busy and when we're not thinking about the threat of temptation and how sin might creep into our lives, that's when we're most susceptible. You think about how a lion hunts its prey. And there might be a group of animals that it's targeting. The one that he finally ends up hunting and taking down is the one that is the weak one, or the one that's not paying attention, the one who is the straggler from the pack. We need to be paying attention and not allow ourselves to become distracted by the things of this life, where we then are not looking for the threat of the devil, that we're not trying to resist temptation. We can resist temptation. We can resist the devil. Peter said here in the next verse, resist him firm in your faith. And James talked about in James chapter 4 that if you resist the devil, he will flee from you. He's seeking someone to devour, but through Christ, by faith, we can resist him. And so as we look at this passage, two things we need to remember. Number one, sin is something to be wary of. Sin is something to be avoided and not thought that, well, it really doesn't matter if we sin or not. We need to work to overcome sin. And the second thing is we need to be paying attention and not allow ourselves to become so distracted by the worries of this life that we are not paying attention to the pitfalls and the temptations that exist around us. We can overcome the devil. We can resist temptation. We can do that through Christ by faith. But we need to be paying attention. We need to be looking for these threats. And we need to have the willingness to overcome temptation, to follow Christ. So that's what we need to be doing. Look to avoid sin. Look to resist the devil. Always looking to Christ. Always striving to be faithful to Him. And if we will do that, then we can avoid all the pitfalls that come as Satan tries to put them in front of us.